Welcome to the Fighting on Film podcast, the podcast all about classic and obscure war movies, from the Normandy landings to the days of chivalry and swords. If it's been captured on film, we're going to try and cover it. I'm Robbie of RM Military History.
I'm Matthew Moss of Historical Firearms and the Armourer's Bench.
Hello, welcome back to Fighting on Film. Now, this week, if you've been keeping up to date on me Twitter, you'll know that this film is a very interesting war film. And it's Matt's doing because he was adamant that we'd cover this, because sometimes after the show we kick back, open a beer, and we just search the streaming websites for obscure films, ones you might not know.
We haven't seen. Yeah,
films we haven't seen. And we saw the trailer for this one. We were like, oh my God, like, what is this? It's one of these Asylum mockbuster type films, and we've not done one of these movies before. So, Matt, do you want to explain to the lovely audience out there what this movie is this week?
Well, let me read from the IMDb page's synopsis. PT-218, The Rebels of World War II, not only tells a true story, but gives us never-seen details of what happened in 1943. At the height of World War II, the Atlantic Ocean became a deadly battleground. An American torpedo boat fights against the constant bombardment of German forces. Let's unpack that. So, PT-218, that's the name of the ship that this film's about, okay? No, it's not. Because it's not about that ship at all.
It's not about that ship is sunk within the first 5 minutes.
And it says you will learn new details about what happened in 1943. Great, okay. What happened in 1943? All sorts.
Just nothing. Nothing that happened in this movie happened in 1943.
At the height of World War II, the Atlantic Ocean. This film is not set in the Atlantic Ocean. It's set in the Med. There's no Atlantic Ocean in this. It's brilliant. Anyway.
I mean, technically it is, because they filmed it on a ship that was technically in the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, but that's got nothing to do with the plot. You really are stretching there. It's got nothing to do with the film.
No.
As an American torpedo boat, the torpedo boat is in the film for all of 4 minutes. Fights against constant bombardment of German forces. Again, questionable. So what really happens in the film, because that description is absolute bollocks, is we're on a Liberty ship in the Med for some reason, and it was supporting the invasion of Salerno.
Yep, that's it. Operation Avalanche.
And it follows this ragtag crew of merchant marines, and Eric Roberts is the captain, who plays it's kind of like the Caine Mutiny in places where they're trying to be like the Caine Mutiny, and then they do bits of Greyhound.
Yeah,
and then it's like Saving Private Ryan. They do a beach operation, and it's just like, what the. Anyway,
the shades of Cockle Shell Heroes in that bit, isn't there? As well, right?
Anyway, that is we're going to talk a lot about that. So, I mean, it's always a good sign when the IMDb page doesn't have the trailer for the film, as well, and it has one of the most shocking posters I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that leads us nicely into cast. Rob, who's in this film and on this amazing poster?
So, the movie, the cast, which is kind of stacked in a weird way. Like these mockbusters tend to be. They tend to have a few names that you can look on a DVD cover. I think we've all seen them in the shops where you glance up at a DVD, you think, oh, that's got some names in it. And then you see the names, don't you?
Look at this. It's got all these famous names in it, and they all look really creepy.
Yeah, it's bad. Weird.
They don't look that bad in the film, but on this cover art, they look awful.
I've done them dirty.
Anyway, sorry, I've
done them dirty on the poster. It's fine. So we have in our lead, as Matt mentioned, Eric Roberts as Lieutenant William Snow. Eric Roberts is a prolific American actor. He's over 600 credits, TV and film roles. He was an Academy Award nominee in 1985 for his role in Runaway Train. And he actually played the Master in the 1996 Doctor Who movie. And it seems of late he's... Oh, wow. Yeah, he did, yeah. And it seems of late that he's started doing these sort of mockbuster straight-to-DVD type movies.
I know, because he's also in 2020's Top Gunner.
Yes, Top Gunner. Yeah, I saw that.
Which looks peak.
It does look good.
there's going to be a rich seam of the Asylum films that we can mine. I think after this,
I think so.
because this
I
has
think so.
opened my eyes.
See how
This and D-Day Dog Company has
yeah,
blown my fucking mind.
So seeing how this one does, we may do more. So the next, actually talking about Dog Company, actually. So Jeff Mead, he plays Ensign Kenneth Ford. He's like the second in command character. He's an actor, writer, director. He's been active for 20 odd years acting. He's lots of TV roles, appearances in like Walker Texas Ranger, the SWAT series, Pam and Tommy, that latest mini series. But he actually wrote the screenplay for D-Day Dog Company.
Did he really?
He did, yeah.
Oh, wow. What a renaissance, man.
I know, right? The thing is, writing the script itself, probably not as bad as the actual movie. So,
yeah,
you know,
debatable on that one, but yeah.
I always think a different director, different budget with the same script. Would it be a better film?
Maybe.
And then we have Danny Trejo. He plays Edgar Cookie Orozco. And he's like a cult actor. You know, you'll know him. He's been in some of the biggest 90s action films like Con Air, From Dusk Till Dawn. He played a character called Machete in Spy Kids. And then that character got its own like sort of grindhouse type movie franchise that were like a homage to 80s B movies themselves. So it's quite ironic that he goes from being in these sort of 90s action films that are almost B movies of their day to now just being in straight B movies. It's very sad to see the downward trajectory of Danny Trejo's career. But he's good.
What I find interesting about them is that sometimes they'll pop up in actual decent movies still. But then at the same time, a lot of actors of a certain position are doing are doing those lower budget B movie type things.
Well, look how we obviously are sad what happened to Bruce Willis with medical problems, but he was doing that at the end when he was winding down, and it was to make money for his children. So maybe this is apparently a good way of fattening up that pension. Who knows? There must be a reason. But and I also think maybe with Danny Trejo, because he's in these sort of grindhouse movies, that's what Machete is like. In those movies, back in the day, you'd get like a bigger name to do maybe like a day on set. You'd record a half hour, an hour's worth of footage with them, and then you'd splice that in, put that in your trailer, make it look like this person's in it way more than they are.
Oh, that's still going on hardcore. The 4 scenes with Danny Trejo in this film start off okay and get worse as they go through.
A sliding scale, but his character is probably more interesting because Danny Trejo is giving it his best as much as he can do with the script that he's got. And then finally, we've got William Baldwin. Now, I never thought I'd say these words. We've got William Baldwin, one of the Baldwin brothers, as General Omar Bradley. Amazing. As I mentioned, he's one of the Baldwin brothers. He's appeared in Backdraft in the early 90s. One of his earlier roles was in Born on the 4th of July by Oliver Stone. And more recently, he's appeared on TV in the Hawaii Five-0 and MacGyver reboots. So he's quite prolific. And then the rest of the crew is just made up of up-and-coming American actors. So we have Marcus Miller as Klaus, Isaac J. Cruz as Seaman Marser, Daniel Johnson as Seaman Bauer, Rob Ridorian as Seaman Moose Johnson, Carl Egberken as Seaman Irish, and Cap Peterson as Seaman Grover. Noah Blake as Commander Barnes. He plays Omar Bradley's right-hand man. And then we have Link. And then we have Connor Tribole, Seaman Jeffries, and Derek Yates as Seaman Rich Schneider. Now, I do round those actors up there. Don't go into much detail because a lot of these guys, at the moment, this is one of their biggest credits.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because I think the movie does these guys a disservice because I actually think they're way better, probably much, much better actors than this movie lets them be.
None of them are terrible in any of the roles. They're all okay.
Exactly.
The clunkiness of any of the performances comes from the script.
That's fair. And speaking from experience, I know how difficult it is to get yourself into the industry, get roles, get on set, and you're not going to turn down a movie like this. One, it probably pays a decent rate. So, we might laugh at these guys objectively, but we're not laughing at them. if that makes sense. We're laughing at the movie as a piece of entertainment.
Yeah,
We're not picking on anyone, really. I think that's probably a fair assessment as we move on. But apart from that, those four main characters there, the named actors with the ones you probably recognize the most, they're doing all the groundwork. They're getting all the lines, but yet the crew is doing all the legwork and trying to provide the emotional weight and all this.
The big names are doing the exposition, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. And the rest of the crew run around doing what they want.
Yes, the plot. So yeah, I guess that takes us to production, doesn't it? And what more can we say than this is an Asylum film? And you know what you're getting with an Asylum film, well known for their 25 films a year.
I'd say infamous at this point.
Yeah, perhaps so. Sharknado, etc., etc. So this was directed by Nick Lyon, best known for Operation Dunkirk in 2017.
Oh, that's a turkey. that's a dreadful
yeah,
one.
I know. And D-Day Dog Company in 2019. And of course, who could forget Bermuda Tentacles, Stormgeddon.
And Titanic 666, was that his
and
most
Titanic
recent?
666, exactly. I mean, chef's kiss on those ones. And it was produced by Asylum's founders, no less. One of them and a very frequent co-producer on these films. So we've got David Michael Latt, who is the co-founder of Asylum, and Paul Bales. And their co-productions include Nazis at the Center of the Earth, Battle of Los Angeles, Flight 1943, which is amazing. D-Day Dog Company, as we've mentioned, Battle Star Wars, and Top Gunner as well, which we mentioned earlier.
I love how they legally navigate all the names. It's amazing.
So, I mean, to just briefly explain, like, mockumentaries, what they are is
mockbusters.
When there's a big film coming up and it gets announced it's in production, I think studios like Asylum go, right, that's one we need to like latch onto. Yeah. And they make a sort of similar-ish film that they can jump off the back of. Mm-hmm. So I think this one was probably done for Greyhound, which I've already covered, by the way.
Came out a year after, about, I think. But you see it all the time. I think it's like to catch people off guard, isn't it? When you're in the shops.
Yeah, it's just to fool people when they're walking through like a supermarket and there's a carousel with them all on. Oh, look, it's the new film with Danny Trejo, and you just grab that off the rack and you go home and enjoy The Rebels of PT-218.
It's the sort of stuff you see in H&B for like $5, and you're like, yeah, in for a penny.
Well, exactly, and it's on streaming services now, and they're super popular. So sometimes they get like big hits with Sharknado and Megalodon.
Yeah, like cult status. This cult, isn't it? It's all that stuff.
People understand that they're funny and it's a joke.
Yeah.
But when you're doing a war movie and they put the words "true story" into the description,
the most loosest based on I think I've ever heard.
It gets that line is heavily blurred to where
a bit problematic,
okay,
shall we say? Yeah.
Anyway, so moving on. Screenplay was by George Clymer, who I believe this is his first film that he's written. Edited by Maximilian Elved.
What a name!
And I believe that the visual effects supervisor was Glenn Campbell, and the director of photography, the cinematographer, was Peja Radnikovic, who has done lots of the Asylum films and the crew is insular in that.
Seems like they've got their own guys.
Yeah, they have a set production crew, and people come through on different productions, and they have a lot of overlap in all of the production team. Mm-hmm. And amazingly, there was no historical advisor on the film.
No, really?
Yeah, you'll be surprised to learn.
I'm shocked, Matthew.
One of the most interesting things is this film was filmed in California with a very weird stock shot used to stand in for, I think, Sicily, where they keep cutting to show where Omar Bradley's headquarters are.
It's like it's like off of Envato Elements or something, or it's off of like Canva's stock.
And you've got like a dude sat in shorts and a t-shirt on some steps.
In a modern car driving past. It's like you could have done something with that in the edit to make that look less out of place.
Oh yeah. So I mean that just leaves me to talk about the ship that they're on. It's not
Probably the
PT-218.
most interesting thing in the movie.
It is actually. It's not PT-218 because PT-218 gets blown up in the first 4 minutes. So I don't know why they decided to do that, because there's no films about PT boats coming out. So that's anyway. And it was filmed aboard SS Victory Lane, which was an actual Liberty ship that was came into commission in 1945. It was a veteran of the Korean War and the Vietnam War, reactivated for both.
Wow.
And she's now in California as a museum ship. And lots of interesting movies have been filmed on board. So the ship's actual website has a great little list of all the films it's appeared in, including The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Double Impact, Flags of Our Fathers, G.I. Jane, Gone in 60 Seconds, Naked Gun 2.5.
Wow.
Pearl Harbor.
No way.
Harbor. The Thin Red Line, Titanic for some reason. That doesn't sound right. And U571.
Amazing.
But you know what isn't listed on there? This film, yeah.
Oh, we better email them, Matt. Let them know their list.
Let
is
them know
incomplete.
they missed one out.
Yeah. Ironically, all those movies are well worth your time, other than this one. And even I would put U571 above this.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, we'll talk about U571.
We will, because I don't think that movie is nearly as awful as people give it credit for. Like,
ooh, okay.
It's fighting talk, but I think you got to take away the history part of it and look at entertainment, then maybe reassess.
Yeah.
You know, like how I feel about Fury. People get too hooked into Fury from the historical accuracy point of view, and they overlook it as a piece of cinema. And you can come at it either way. But I think sometimes when you look out at these movies as an overview, you can treat them a bit more fairly than the Fury at the time. People remember the controversy, they remember the issues, but then look at it 20 years later, 10 years, 5 years, whatever, and is it actually a good movie? Whereas I could go back to this film 10 years' time and it'd still be a turkey. Age will not improve this.
So basically, getting back to the film at hand, so the based on true events element of this comes from the ship in the film. The film's actually about the SS Lawton B. Evans, which was a Liberty ship which was active in the Mediterranean. And it did have encounters with U-boats. It was involved in the Battle of Anzio, but probably not as is depicted in this film.
No.
So she was hit by a dud torpedo from U-221. And she survived this with some minimal damage. She didn't then hunt down the U-boat with depth charges on her own.
No.
As is this in this film, because that's where your Greyhound moment comes in. We'll go up against a destroyer, which is another element of the film. And then it was involved in the Battle of Anzio, and there was an engagement with some hostile shore batteries. So that bit is kind of true. They returned fire with machine guns and such.
They're heavily layering on the artistic license, though.
Yeah. They did shoot down a number of German planes, which is reflected at the end of the film. But that's about it, really. I mean, that's the link to the true element of it. So I guess the best thing we can do, Rob, is to move on. And instead of going straight to the alley tally, which is going to be a plethora of absolute gold this week.
Very interesting, the alley tally again. Hey, what interesting? I'm trying to be too nice. Fucking abhorrent is probably what I would say.
We should probably discuss the plot. I think we should just talk through the plot and try and give people a feel for this film. See, because not everyone might have seen this.
No,
I know we do some obscure ones on the pod. I know we do, Rob. I know we hold our hands up and we do some obscure ones.
We do,
and we always encourage people to go out and find them and watch them.
Yeah,
we're going to give you a little flavor this time. See whether you really want to do
snackerel of this movie. Yeah. So, as Matt mentioned at the start, in his little brief roundup there, I wrote my own little, because I do like a sentence.
Yours is probably better than what they've got on IMDb. Let's face it.
I put a US Liberty ship is tasked with taking out the 1_1 88mm shore battery, stopping the entire Allied invasion force of the invasion of Salerno in 1943.
My favorite part about this is that the way that they set this up is it's normally the job of PT boats, Rob, to go in and knock out these shore batteries.
I had no idea that was even a thing, Matthew.
That is not a thing. What are they going to do it with? What are they going to? What could fire torpedoes at them? And that's anyway.
So what they do, they fire a torpedo at a cliff, and then it
ricochets.
A big cartoon crack in the cliff, and the shore battery just falls into the sea. Did you not know that?
That's it. Yeah. And then Wile E. Coyote runs across the screen and kicks it. Yeah. Okay. So the film begins with it's at night, and we're on board the Lawton B. Evans, and our escorts of PT boats, PT-218, the titular ship of the film, is there, and they're engaging shore batteries with machine guns and 20mm Oerlikons, and the ship's 1 5-pounder, or 5-inch rather, and the one by one the PT boats are picked off by these German 88s up on the cliff that they haven't depressed down enough to hit any of the ships they're aiming at, but that doesn't matter.
They've just got that one stock CGI 88 they bought, and they've copied and pasted it.
Oh, that's so good. I love the 88 position.
I love the little PlayStation 1 German man, German character firing it with one hand. It's so good.
The PS1 cutscenes are brilliant.
It's not as bad as the Titanic one though, where they're like, if you really zoom in on that, the aerial shots of Titanic.
Yeah.
When you zoom in on those, they look like this. But so that was in 1998 or 7 when that Titanic came out, and I expect that to be dated and look crap. This just looks bad.
Anyway, so it's a night scene, and they're on board the ship, and this is where the Caine Mutiny element comes in.
A little bit.
Roberts' character goes, no, we must attack the shore batteries. So he orders the ship to turn around and go for another pass. And his XO is like, no, we shouldn't do that. We're a Liberty ship. Yeah. And everyone in the audience is like, of course.
For about an hour of this movie, Ensign Kenneth Ford talks the most sense out of any character, because he's constantly reminding everyone that they're on a Liberty ship. And then at one point in the film, he just becomes apathetic.
He just accepts that he's going to have to go and win the war himself.
It's like abuse. Yeah. He just can't take anymore, and he's just like, whatever, just do what you want. I've had enough. Yeah.
I'll lead that shore expedition to knock out all 3 of those 88 batteries. It's fine.
But they treat this Liberty ship, is what fucks me off. They treat this Liberty ship like it's a destroyer, like it's a.
Well, that's it. So Roberts' character is supposed to be like he's a former destroyer captain that's been demoted. So for some reason, there's a U.S. Navy lieutenant, that's commanding a Liberty ship, which is under the, it's Merchant Marine. They wouldn't have had
under the personal command of General Bradley.
Yeah, General Bradley has a direct line to this one Liberty ship.
That famous naval commander, Omar Bradley. It had taken a 5-second Google to work out the naval equivalent of
the hierarchy. Yeah.
And just do that.
Shout out to the commander who is with him, who my headcanon is trying to say, he's like the naval attaché.
Perhaps.
He's I'll just tell my naval attaché to direct the nearest ship to attack these shore batteries. But he's not. He's dressed as like a full bird colonel, U.S. Army uniform, and they're in this bunker that's supposed to be, I think, on Sicily.
I think so.
There's machine gun fire and bombardment going on outside, like it's a frontline OP, CP.
So weird.
Why would they? I mean, I think Sicily had been pacified by the time they started invading Italy.
I mean, probably. Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, you would hope so. But those scenes are just so insane. So,
they clearly had William Baldwin for a day. They had to get it shot quickly.
Oh, I know. And they're in the most awfully dressed studio, and it's got camouflage netting inside the studio to hide the walls. And there's a radio wireless next to a field telephone.
Just cobble together any old shit that
It's
looks like
it's
radio.
the set dressers have gone out and gone, fuck, we need old shit. And
I've
they've
got
just
that.
like
I got
gone and looked
$10 in a
in.
bit of string. It's what I've cobbled together.
Here's a radio that looks old. That'll do.
I've raided the Goodwill. We are. That looks old.
And he stood there with like a Glock on his hip.
Did he have a Glock? I didn't even know
he did. He had like a modern
cutting edge technology for the general there.
He had like a modern plastic holster on, like a Kydex holster. And he's wearing a helmet with four stars on it.
Well before he became a 4-star general as well.
Exactly. And I don't think he would have been wearing that in his headquarters. He would have just been wearing a field cap.
Well, he had the amount of gunfire going outside.
Well, that's very true. He was under fire. He was about to pop outside with his Glock and just give some return fire.
While Ernie Pyle just like is standing and all writing about him.
Roberts' backstory is he's this disgraced destroyer captain because he was escorting a convoy. The convoy got, decimated by U-boats because he went off hunting one and he was drawn away. Unlike Tom Hanks in Greyhound, who stuck his, Tom Hanks knew what he was doing. He stayed on station, didn't go chase him.
No, exactly.
But Roberts' character did. So he has this guilt trip where he's like, I take full responsibility for my actions and it was my fault. I'm like, yeah, we know that's been dealt with. You've clearly been demoted and put on a Liberty ship.
Mm-hmm.
But what annoyed me so much was the preamble to the film, the voiceover, which was filmed, or which was recorded or played over some possibly the worst use of contemporary stock footage I've ever seen. And it explains that PT boats were used to knock out shore batteries. And I couldn't find any reference to this. So maybe I'm missing it completely.
If you're a PT boat expert, please let us know.
Yeah. Come on, we'll redo this film. We'll talk about the 4 minutes worth of PT boat that gets seen in it. It literally did just change history to fit the film. The next time we see the ship, it's daytime. They're in fog, but the CGI is a clear day.
Yes,
and they're in fog because it's quite clearly they're in harbor in Los Angeles.
The ship is moored; it doesn't move.
The ship is not moving.
How can we hide the fact that the ship's not moving?
Get this,
the
Rob.
foggiest fucking summer ever.
The SS Victory Lane is seaworthy. She goes on yearly trips, right for tourists. And I read the website, and they have this cool day where they have swing music on, and it's immersive. And then the ship gets buzzed by enemy aircraft at one point.
That sounds better than this entire film.
It sounds like a decent day out, doesn't it?
Let's book the
what I'm getting at here is
go.
They could have hired the ship to leave harbor and get some at sea shots.
They could have, but in their defense though, how much would that have cost? Because I assume this movie had a finite budget.
Oh, do you think?
In their defense, how much would that have cost to run that ship around the harbour for a bit, maybe around, fuel?
That's fair. That's
staff,
fair.
health and safety as well, I guess, would come into difference.
No, you're right there. I am asking a bit too much, aren't I?
I mean, in an ideal world, I agree with you. It would have been great to get some on-sea shots, but then take into factor how cheap it would have been to pay a CGI artist to make that ship.
It was indeed
in Blender
quite cheap.
or whatever.
Yes.
To do that. I'm going to defend the film for a little bit.
Rob's playing devil's advocate right now.
Putting the boxing gloves on. That was probably way cheaper, but it would have looked nice. It would have been nice to have some.
Yeah, and not rely on a fog machine to obscure the harbour.
I mean, even some establishing shots of the actual ship, because if you'd have shot them tastefully, you would have got some nice exterior shots of the ship that you don't get, which is a bit of a shame. And it's only filmed from one angle as well, so there must be loads of modern stuff over the other side of the ship they can't film. But a good cinematographer with no angles, things like that, there's just not enough going on.
I mean, we'll come back on to cinematography in a bit. I've got plenty to say about that because this has one of the best shots I've ever seen.
Oh, Matt just giggles every time he sees the shot.
Oh my god, I can't. I'm even thinking about it now. I'm going anyway. So they're tasked with taking a couple of PT boats, and they're going to do apparently they're doing the same mission again, because the film opens with them engaging shore batteries, and then they're told they have to go and destroy shore batteries, and then it seemed to take them 4 days to get there because we get these great shots of a map, and every time you look at this map, so it goes to the map table, and it's a guy with
Like
a
Indiana
plastic
Jones.
ruler.
Yeah.
Yeah, with a plastic ruler, drawing out where the ship's going, and it's
It's an
towards Italy.
XM159 experimental ruler. That's what it is.
Yeah. And
Oh my god.
I was looking at this and I was thinking that map is like way too old for the 40s.
Looks like something out of like Pirates of the Caribbean or something.
Yeah. And then it's also in French. It's in
Which
French.
me and you didn't realise until about halfway through. The map's like, hang on a
I was
minute.
like, Rob,
Hang on
that
a
map's in
minute.
French. Anyway, so if you want to play a drinking game with this film, you totally can. So every time the map
be
appears,
dead.
drink. You would. This is Fighting on Film does not condone the level of drinking needed for this drinking game.
Not
But
enough alcohol in existence.
No, there isn't. I wish I
Take a drink every time you
drink right now because I need
see.
to.
Take a drink every time you see the same CGI ship.
Yes. Drink every time you see someone absolutely rocking a 20mm Orlican. Because I'm gonna be talking about that in a minute. Oh my god, I've never seen anything quite like that.
Take a drink every time
appears.
People's dress shirts clearly come from a different supplier, so nothing's quite uniform, even though they're wearing uniform.
Every time something is clearly not from the 40s on camera, you would be dead. You'd be dead before halfway through the film, or at least you'd be unconscious.
If you drink a very, very light beer, you might just get through it.
Hello there, sorry to interrupt. I wanted to let you know that you can now join our supporting cast over on Patreon. As thanks for your support, you'll be able to help us pick films, submit questions for guests, have first pick on brand new and exclusive merch, and much more. Thank you for your support. Now back to the show. So they go on this mission and they encounter a U-boat first, and they depth charge a U-boat. They hunt the U-boat down. Yeah. So first they chase it with their 5-inch gun, and this is where the script kind of falls apart, because at one point
it's getting choppy, doesn't it?
The commander is talking to the ensign, and the commander's like, "You need to keep an eye on Lieutenant Snow or whatever his name is, and because he's a loose cannon, but we need a loose cannon for this mission."
It's that classic Maverick trope, isn't it? It's so cliched.
And then he says, the ensign says, "We've got the best gunners in the US Navy on board." And at first they're merchant marines.
They're not the fucking Navy, so.
And he says, "We've got the best gunners in the Atlantic Ocean." They're not in the Atlantic Ocean. Anyway, they miss. They don't get it. So they have to go. They have to chase it and deploy depth
charge it. Yeah.
God knows how they found it with the radar that would have been on a Liberty ship. But anyway, the sonar rather, if they even had it. So they depth charge this U-boat, and it surfaces, and there's like a little scene where the U-boat captain's on the deck gun, and he's wearing like the weirdest uniform imaginable.
Yeah, like, it's a Wehrmacht uniform. It's not a crazy.
It is. It's not even Navy. It's like, how hard is it to get like a tan shirt?
Yeah.
Or
just not
vaguely
show
sea
that.
captain-y hat.
Or just not show that.
Don't have him. Not needed.
Yeah, don't need it.
None of that was needed. No,
None of that was needed. You could cut swathes out of this movie. You still would make it work, but you could.
Anyway, so I mean, they amazingly they sink the U-boats. They've lost all their PT boat escort now, though. That's the bad thing. Cut to another sequence of the map getting a line drawn on it, and then it's nighttime, and they're somewhere off the coast of somewhere. I don't know the French names for Italy, but we couldn't read the map. So it's nighttime now. On the radar, like there's a blip, Rob, and it's a destroyer. It's a German destroyer.
Don't know what it was doing on its own off the coast of Italy.
No idea,
but it was there.
But it manages to get within 3 feet of the Liberty ship without seeing it, and then it sees it, and they have like a broadside battle where the machine guns and the Orlicans are going.
I stupidly wrote this bit in my notes in my favourite scene section. But that's not true, because I don't have any favourite scenes in this one.
Oh, I do.
But that's the I've written it there. I've got, as I wrote it plain as day when I watched the movie. I like the balls on the director and the VFX team. They tried to recreate that scene from Greyhound with the two ships past each other, but it's done so quickly and has almost no purpose.
No, it really doesn't.
I can't say fairer than that.
Because somehow the destroyer like disappears.
It just vanishes into thin air.
Yeah, and that's not a problem anymore because they carry on, and they're damaged and stuff apparently because we haven't got enough fuel to get to wherever the French map is taking us.
They get there though.
They get there.
It's just like there's so many loose plot points that never get sewn up. It's so annoying. Just trying to watch it subjectively, like, right, I know this movie's bad, but come on, give it a chance, and you end up going insane. That's why that production team's called the fucking Asylum, because you should be thrown in a fucking asylum after trying to work this movie out in your fucking head.
Their mission, obviously, is to knock out these shore batteries.
The one shore battery.
That's going to hold up the entire.
An elite SS.
Hang
battery.
On. It's an elite SS shore battery with the best guns in the whole German army.
The whole German army.
Quote.
Yeah. Quote General Omar Bradley.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd say that.
So obviously they have a problem here because the commandos that were apparently going to go ashore from the PT boats to knock out the shore guns are dead because they got sunk by the destroyer and the U-boat. You'd think the commandos would have been on board the big ship that could hold lots of men rather than on the actual little PT boats.
I know,
and they
right?
just transfer them to get them inshore. But anyway, so they're not on board that. So
maybe
they're
they were
dead.
going on like a little pleasure cruise, just have a potter about.
Well, that's what this whole film is, a pleasure cruise. It's
an unpleasurable cruise.
It's an unpleasurable watch. It falls upon the merchant marines on board, the sailors, to do the commando raid. So of course they're more than prepared to do this. There's a little rousing sequence where I was praying that Eric Roberts would just put his hands on his hips like Richard Todd in the Yangtze incident when he was addressing the men on the ship, because it's in this exact same. It's like it's a shot back towards the bridge. They're on the forecastle, like they're all gathered around in like a little U shape, and he's giving them a little pep talk. He's like, "Looks like we're not going to be able to like get to the shore. We haven't got enough fuel, and the commandos, they've been killed. So what are we going to do?" And all the crew's like, "Well, we can't let them win the war and all this."
Yeah.
So they elect to go ashore themselves. So a crack team of 5 merchant marine sailors, go ashore. In some of the worst costume I've ever seen. We'll talk about that in a minute.
I think now we should segue into the alley tally because we've got to the bit with the most alley tally worthy items in it.
It's time for Alley Tally on Fighting on Film.
So Alley Tally this week. It's been a few weeks since we've had a dedicated Alley Tally.
Yeah, it has actually.
It's nice to have it back. And what a smorgasbord of weird fucking stuff we've got for you this week, folks. So me and Matt were watching this movie together. We both hit play on the same platform at the same time. We got to this scene. And the WhatsApp chat was popping off.
Rob sends me a video, and I'm at the same point of the film sending him a video of my reaction to the same scene, because we watched this film like 6-12 months ago. And we knew it was good. We knew it was
worthy.
In
a morbid way.
But I'd completely forgotten a lot of the elements of this scene that we found funny at the time. I found them all funny again. So the lads have come ashore, and we'll talk about what they're wearing in a minute. But anyway, they're attacking this SS, this crack SS
crap
battery.
SS.
They're all wearing like weird camo mix, and then their officer is like wearing a Halloween costume. He looks like I don't even know, but he's stood there with the most anachronistic firearm you could possibly pick for this film. Both of us are like in our reaction videos that were sent to each other right at the same moment. We're like, oh my god, he's got an AR-15, and I'm like,
an AR-15.
Mein Sturmgewehr AR-15.
Das ist mein Code M4 Carabiner. M4 Carabiner. It's so bad. And it's only in it. It was a weird thing. They blur that bit out a little bit.
It's one shot.
But then they zoom into them chatting and you can see it. And it's got a big fuck off telescopic scope on it. So what I think happens is they film this wide, showing you the little the tiny little garrison defending this gun. So they must have had that wide shot and then had no other wide shots. So they've tried their best in the edit to blur that out, which is fine because you can't really make it out unless they do that other little cut closer when you can make out the forward assist. That's what we knew what it was.
And the magazine as well.
There's a 30-round mag there and a forward assist. But then we think, oh, okay, that's funny. Maybe, maybe it's all they had in the day. Who knows? But it's a mistake. Someone saw it.
Just don't put it in.
Take that away.
Just don't put it in. Just
don't put it in. Yeah.
He's an officer. He's an officer in like dress uniform. He wouldn't be in dress uniform, and he wouldn't be standing there with a rifle anyway. He
wouldn't be at the battery anyway. So the lads come off of the Lawton. They get to the beach. We never see how they get to the beach. And it's on a little raft or something.
Yeah, it's on like a little like a little rowboat with an outboard motor that they come in on.
And then the film has its own little. I think it's a mixture of Cockleshell Heroes, Saving Private Ryan, the trench taking out the 88's trench sequence from Band of Brothers.
Yeah,
it's like that. But it's just really bad. And they come up the hill, and me and Matt were like, right, they got M1 helmets on. They're wearing like really stock run-of-the-mill fatigues, like sand-coloured fatigues.
Yeah, they're like...
Doesn't look awful from a distance. It's not terrible. No. They've got modern boots on, whatever. That stuff you can just forgive. It's fine. Yeah. I'm not expecting it to be...
It's all right.
Yeah, I'm not expecting it to be like the worst. But then they've got Alice plate carriers on, like really modern Alice plate carriers. I'm like, that's an interesting
it's like sand coloured.
Yeah.
And I was like, Rob, is that Molly?
It's Molly. Yeah. One of you's got an Alice Ruck on from like the mid-80s. And I'm like, what?
They're wearing like literally modern low bearing equipment.
Yeah.
And it's just mind blowing at this point.
The thing is, I don't expect it to be fantastic. But you just take the Molly plate carrier off of the guys. It looks fine. It's just an annoying thing these movies do where it's like, oh yeah, put them in that. That's what soldiers wear. And I'm
my God. And that guy carrying the Thompson at the low ready. Oh
my God. Yeah, it's annoying anyway. And then there's a guy carrying a K98K with the front sight pushed up.
Oh yeah.
Really random.
Why's he got a K98K?
I don't know why he's got a K98K. Is anyone carbines in it?
Someone might have gone, oh, well, they would have had Springfields probably because they're Merchant Marines and it's not a frontline boat.
Well, I thought...
We haven't got one of those, but we have got this other bolt-action rifle.
Yeah, true.
Give that to the German guy that's got a M4 carbine.
Yeah. But I think it's annoying in a way because I'm thinking, well, you've got all this budget to make this movie. You could have rented some kit for a day or found some reenactors who would have maybe lent you their kit for, I don't know, a paltry fee or something. I'm sure there's a way you could have done it. But it's not that annoying, but that you could have had a lovely scene going, but we haven't got any kit for raiding with, like what you're talking about. And then they go, Danny Trejo could have gone, lads, we're a supply ship. We've got all this stuff on board already.
That would have been a great little scene.
You could have had a cool little
open some crates.
Yeah, like a little kitting up sequence.
Pulling out some like bandoliers.
Yeah, something like
Just
that.
Bandoliers.
Something like that. It would have just a little bit more thought. Could have been a really nice little scene, and it might have reminded you of the fact they're on a Liberty ship, and they always talk about hauling supplies and stuff. They'd much rather be doing that.
We have no idea what they're hauling because they're off to do
it's a MacGuffin.
Shore bombardment.
It's a plot point. It's irrelevant
with their 1 5-inch gun.
But yeah, that whole scene is just annoying. There's this weird
I love it.
Thing in front of the 88 protecting it.
It's a weird shield thing.
It's the weird
it's
shield
not even like
thing.
Concrete. Yeah. It's just like and it's about 12 foot tall. How are they supposed to aim downwards? It's not even a bunker.
Yeah.
And it cuts to this there's one scene where they've clearly mocked up the profile of an 88 with some pipe and thrown a camouflage net over it. So the guys could film inside it. So it's underneath the gun. Uh-huh. But they then use it for a wide shot where the guys are about to throw grenades. And it looks so bad because they've superimposed it with a bit of CGI as well. And it just looks so it's the worst CGI 88s I've ever seen.
Yeah. It's just a little bit more thought needed to be put into that sequence because it might have worked if they weren't
dig a trench.
Yeah,
if they weren't dig a trench.
If they weren't dressed so badly and it's just so little changes to that sequence. It wouldn't be shocking.
That lad has got quite the arm on him for throwing that grenade.
It really does. Yeah,
and it kind of falls short as well in the CGI, and then it cuts to an insert where it's pickup shot where it's the grenade lands in the bunker, and they go nine and it blows up and kills them. It's quite the sequence, but it is up there with my favorite parts of the film. Anyway, they go back down to the beach because they're going to exfiltrate because we don't see their boat. We don't know. Some German troops come up like 200 yards away, and they're hiding behind some rocks. And the ensign's like there with his rubber Tommy gun, and he's like, we're going to get these guys. And he's like, on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, and they all go up. And this guy like pops up with his K98K, and he's like holding it in the middle of his body at arm's length,
like
and
point shooting a rifle, like to let him do it.
Well, he's got the rear sight at like 2,000 yards because it's straight up.
It's some accurate shooting, Matthews. This is what it is.
and they shoot these guys, and there's a shot of them from the front, almost like a quarter shot, and you can see him like trying to whack the bolt, and it's the most awkward thing ever. Just give the guy like 20 minutes to sit and like play with the gun. Just
give him a little bit of time. Clearly these sequences were shot less post, more haste, whatever
I'd love to know how quickly this film was made and how much budget it had, but there's no information like that.
No way of knowing. Probably as little as possible to then sell it.
We were actually trying to find out whether the ship that the film was filmed on, where it was and what it was, because it isn't listed in the credits at all. So I did some sleuthing and found one of the younger actors had posted. I did some filming on a ship in San Pedro last year, and here's some behind the scenes shots. And so I did a bit of Google sleuthing, like Liberty ships in California.
Backtrack, to find it.
And SS Victory Lane's TripAdvisor page popped up.
Because in terms of Ali Tally, that's the one interesting thing is the fact that
that's the most Ali thing here. I mean, we'll talk about the ship itself in a minute, but and I was like, oh, is this the actual ship? Because it looked like it. So I clicked on it, and people had taken some photographs on the ship and the museum and stuff, and it looks really cool on board. They actually have the engine from Sand Pebbles, Steve McQueen movie. Yeah,
that's
and
cool.
It is. It's really random, but they have it as an exhibit in one of the hold spaces.
That's great.
And I was flicking through the photographs, and I was like, oh, no, this is the ship, because the sets hadn't been dressed at all. The bridge and the radio room and the bunk space that's seen with the guys. They just literally put the actors in there, put some lighting in, and then that was it. There was no like additional stuff.
It's the thing, this type of movie making, it's got to be, so cutthroat, cheap. You just go on a location shoot. Right, we found this ship. It's X amount of money to film in for X amount of days. Yeah. We don't have to get any more set dressing in, minimal this, minimal that, bish bash bosh, get it done, edit it, sell it maybe to Netflix, sell it maybe to one of your streaming sites, make your money back, make another one.
Yeah.
It's just no thought or care put into it. It was what I was saying, I'll say it later on, but the film just feels so flat because there's nothing else. There's no good night. The grading's not very good. The editing's a bit slapdash. The reuse of CGI all the time. Any immersion the film might get at any point, it didn't get any, but any you might have, you pulled out almost immediately. You see the soles of someone's boots, and it's clearly they're not hobnails, and it's a really small thing, but it's like, I know they're not 40s period boots. They're modern.
You're hobnail counting now, but yeah.
No, I know rivet count, hobnail count, very good, but it just pulls you out of it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But yeah, I mean, in terms of Ali Tally this week, that whole raid sequence is funny.
Yeah.
You've got at the end where they take on the Messerschmitts. Oh no, the Messerschmitts are coming, but they're Fokker Wolves. It's like must have been cheaper on the 3D Elements website you bought these from.
Yeah.
Must have been Messerschmitt was $50, Fokker Wolf was $35. The decision was made, and they get to the point where they've nearly run out of ammo for all their deck guns, and god, everyone's being shot. And Lieutenant Snow comes off the bridge, pulls his sidearm, and this is where Matt lost it on the chat again.
And he has like a terrible action film line where he pulls out this gun. I'm not going to spoil it because Rob wants to tell you, but
I don't know what it is.
It's so bad.
I just know it was wrong.
It's very wrong. It's a subcompact. It's like a concealed carry gun.
Really?
Yeah, it's a I think it's a Taurus like PT or something like
Eric
that.
Roberts' personal carry. Who knows?
Yeah, it could have been. But he pulls it, and you're like, oh no, he's there with his pistol, and he's double hand gripping it as they're coming in and shooting at them. and then his
Mate,
exo
just doing
pops up.
that.
Yeah.
That wobbling your fucking hand about
Well,
like people
they're
do
all
in these
wobbling
movies.
the gun about, Rob. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Anyway, the exo pops up with his rubber Thompson, and it's a nice prop Thompson.
It's not bad, yeah.
It's not terrible. And there's little CGI bullets coming out the side of it.
Someone had a lovely day keying those in, didn't they?
Yeah. I mean, it was nice that they bothered. I thought that was nice.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a nice little addition.
I don't know. They were coming out the wrong angle, I think, but the spent cases was a nice touch. They didn't need to do
there,
that.
aren't they?
And we got Danny Trejo on a 20mm Orcan shouting at the planes as they're coming in, and he's having a great time. But we'll talk about Danny Trejo's final scene later on because I don't want to spoil that in the alley.
But Danny Trejo was in that sequence, almost talking lines from another movie because he just starts going like, "Here come the planes! Here come the planes!" And I'm like, Danny, you're not wrong, Danny, but like it just doesn't scan as well as everyone else's lines.
God.
So,
anyway, his character's a cook, right?
Yeah.
And he has this little scene with Eric Roberts where Danny Trejo's stood on the deck rail like drinking.
Yeah,
I think is not. I mean, the U.S. Navy and I think the Merchant Marines were like dry. There was no drinking on board, but there's a lot of drinking goes on in this one. Like the XOs there, but like buying a bottle of whiskey off him.
They read the script. They started drinking. They read the script.
And Eric Roberts comes up and they're talking, and it turns out that they're old friends. He's like, "Hi, Cookie, how you doing?"
They are old friends. They're definitely old.
And we're not even talking about how age inappropriate they are for the roles.
Fucking old they are, yeah.
Like Danny Trejo's like 79 at this point.
They're called the Rebels of Pension Plan PT-218.
And there's a little bit of a relationship there, and he's like, "Cookie, why don't you want to fight anymore?" It's like, well, one, he's a cook on a merchant marine ship, so he's not really going to be doing any fighting. And he's like, "I like to look after my guys," which is nice. And there's a bit of acting going on. His character's
the most interesting. He's got the most.
He is, but he's like his character is like as a grizzled, one of the best anti-aircraft gunners of the fleet, and he used to be on Roberts' old ship. It's like it's super ripped off from Under Siege. He's literally Casey Ryback.
Like that. It really felt like
because
that.
He's a cook in that movie, and he's like, no, he's just a cook. But no, Danny Trejo on the 20mm, just giving it some at the end. That's great. But he gets wounded, Rob. He gets wounded.
He does,
and he starts just shouting random shit. The bizarrest lines I've ever heard.
It's like he's ad-libbing.
If he's ad-libbing, he doesn't need to ad-lib. He should just stop. He's there. He's like, "Oh my God, I've been shot in my ass." And he's just screaming. I had such a beautiful butt.
That's
is
what he
one
says.
line he comes out with.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? And then this is like the high tension scene of the film. They're being attacked, attacked.
Yeah.
And Danny Trejo's there lying on the deck with holding his arse, shouting, "I had such a beautiful butt." And I'm like, what is going on here? And they pick him up and move him off, and he's like, don't look at my arse or something. And I'm like, what? Where are these lines coming from?
That's so weird, isn't it?
It's bizarre.
Then they give him a machete, and when they're carrying him away,
off,
and it's the
someone
biggest...
runs over with it, and he's like, "Here, Cookie, in case you need it." He's like, Danny Trejo has to stop himself from going, yeah, because I'm in machete.
The shoehorning in there is like
so close to going, "Oh, because I'm in machete."
Because I'm in machete. Yeah. You almost should turn the camera and go, "You buy the box set of Machete for $5.99 off Amazon." If you want to do a Machete reference, there's a much better way of doing it. The first shot of him cooking, because he talks about using chorizo, you do the first shot of him cooking, you put a big thing of chorizo on a chopping board, Machete comes down, you pan out, it's Danny Trejo. There's your Machete reference.
That's great. I love it.
That's much better.
My God, that's good.
And I just made that up.
Yeah.
Out the top of my head.
I was thinking like maybe some wreckage could have fallen on the gun, and he looks around like, how am I going to get this wreckage off? And then
machetes it off.
Machete's there, and he's like grabs it, and he's like, But I like yours way better.
Any good chef uses a machete or something. It's like so many better ways of doing it. Anyway. So I think that's probably, we rambled a bit there, but I think that's probably the end of the alley tally this week. Matt, I'm not going to talk about my favourite scene again because I don't have any. Matt, please, your favourite scene.
I think my favorite scene in the film is any scene where the crew are manning the 20mm Orlikans, because they all deserve Oscars
They
for
do.
their performances.
They're
So
doing
all
their
these
best.
guys are like, every time like action stations is called, they all run to the guns and they put on the little flak jackets and the little the helmets and stuff, and they man the guns. And obviously the guns aren't firing because it's a museum ship. So you got guys there just going hell for leather, trying to imitate
Shaking.
the recoil of a 20mm. And
Yeah.
some of them are not too bad.
It's a
But
sliding scale of accuracy.
Some of them look like they're having like a really nice, like a real like experience with the guns, because they're just like riding them. Some of it's hilariously bad.
I think Matt said in the chat something like, "Oh, are they trying to make love to these weapons or something?"
I don't know whether I was quite that pleasant with it, but
No.
that's my favorite scene, because
they're doing their. This is the thing. This is what I come back to at the start. That they get short end of the stick. Those guys.
they do.
It's unfair. You know, all the good juicy lines are given to Roberts, Mead, Trejo, and Baldwin. They get all the good juicy stuff, and the legwork's done by this ensemble of young upcoming actors, probably trying to get their foot in the door. Hollywood, you know, oh my gosh, this movie's gonna, you know, it's an Eric Roberts movie. Cool. He's, you know, big name.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's unfair because they are made to look stupid through poor script, poor editing, everything else, bleeding into final thoughts now. And that's my main problem with this movie, is that I feel sorry for the cast. I feel sorry for the you know, the probably freelance editors, the whoever came in to maybe try and save this movie in the edit.
Yeah.
And now everyone online ridicules it. One of its reviews on IMDb literally says, "Do not bother watching this movie. It's terrible."
There's a lot of 1 stars. Yeah.
A lot of 1 stars, things like that. And these, you know, these movies are bad. You know, we've talked about D-Day Dog Company before. That might actually be better than this. And that's saying something. That's saying a lot.
Better. Yeah.
The kit's better. But it's just like, I don't like these movies because I just don't like these films.
They drag the genre down as well.
Me and Matt was having this conversation. They drag the genre down. When people think of war movies, some people might think of these types of movies because it makes a mockery of warfare, and it makes a mockery of all the things that the genre can do well and tug on your heartstrings. You end up with characters you don't care about dying in situations that echo real events, and then that upsets me because it's like you just need to do better. And especially when you're coming off the bat, this is the thing we come back to as well, is when you come into your movie saying, right, this movie's based on true events. Here's a preamble of it's 1943.
And it names the ship after a real ship.
It names the ship after a real ship. Obviously, people did serve on that ship. That ship itself is way more interesting. You can get a way more better movie just by following that ship's history. If you come at this from, this is a completely made up bullshit event, then I might have had a bit of fun for the ride type thing. But looking back at it, I'm just like, no, fucking movie, it's fucking crap. I don't recommend it. This is the first time I genuinely will just say to everyone listening, don't bother. I feel really sorry for the as I say again, feel sorry for that ensemble of actors who, you know, did their best. But as far as the rest of it, I just can't recommend it, man. Shock horror.
I know. Well, I will recommend it because everyone needs a laugh now and then. But I completely agree.
I mean, I give you that.
I completely agree with the sentiments that
if you've got morbid curiosity,
if you're going to go on, like, Hollywood is always guilty of embellishing and changing true stories, but this is another level. But I think for me, what we're looking at is the dialogue is clunky in places. You've got bad sets, awful CGI, some fairly weak performances considering what we've got. As you say, the younger guys aren't bad. And I think the weak performances, it just comes from really not being inspired by the script.
Sure it is. And it's a paycheck, isn't it?
Because they're all capable. I'm sure they're all capable. Because none of them are like stumbling over stuff. None of it's stop starting. None of it's bad. It's not bad acting. It's just doesn't.
It's not
really
bad
gel.
acting. It's just not. It's just chewing the scenery. You're not caring.
Yeah. No, exactly.
It's a paycheck, isn't it? At the end of the day,
editing's questionable. There's some really questionable editing in there, where they as we mentioned with that AR-15, and then my true favorite scene is
the last shot,
right at the
basically
end
the
of
last shot of the film.
Yeah, I love this scene. Eric Roberts and his XO are trying to have a conversation, and it's heartfelt, and they're talking about how they believe in one another, and that if Roberts gets the light cruiser that he's been promised in the Pacific by Bradley.
How
Bradley promising him a ship.
Yeah. Bollocks, isn't it? It's absolute tosh.
Anyway, they walk off back towards the bridge down a gangway, and there's a beautiful shot in here where the camera is it's a mid shot looking at the two of them talk waist high. They walk off, and you think, oh, you're going to get like a nice little
Maybe
shot.
Fade to credits, something like that.
Pans to them walking down the hall, just like a leading eye shot straight down. Two guys walking off. The camera pans, and it pans straight to the bulkhead.
It's so weird, isn't it?
It's so bizarre. It's like they just like they. It must have been a steady cam, and they just like panned, and
but
they
there's
didn't
even
pan
like a weird
quite
judder
far
on
enough.
it. It's almost like the cameraman realised that, oh God, I've panned up to the wrong thing. Oh God, and he quickly swings back. And it's like, is that the only take of that you fucking did?
You just see like Eric Roberts' leg is the only part that you see walking off. So they don't get that nice walking off into the fade shot. It's just a bulkhead. I love it.
Do it again.
It's so bad.
This is my whole problem with this movie. It's like, just shoot it again.
No, the museum ship's closing, Robert. They need to get off.
Maybe. And there's another thing as well before we go into the outro. Bits of the ship where obviously they're filming the best angle they can get. And it is that angle you're talking about, the bulkhead angle.
Yeah.
But there's bits in that where you can see like clearly like there's a lighthouse in the background when they're filming at night. And they haven't bothered to just I could have put a solid block on Final Cut over that light and you'd never have known it was there.
Oh, yeah.
There's bits where you've got modern ships, speedboat or a jet ski going past. I'm like, just wait 5 minutes. Cool cut, wait 5 seconds and do that again. It's not going to make your movie better. It's not going to win awards, but at least it won't be an immersion break.
Well, it'll look competent.
I know I'm expecting way more out of this movie, but it's just small. I'm not a filmmaker.
It's the best bulkhead shot in cinema, Rob. I'm calling it now. It's the best bulkhead shot that you will ever see in a film.
Yeah. It's no Cruel Sea, is it?
No, it's not Cruel Sea. It's not even Greyhound.
It's not even Greyhound. A lot of that was shot green screen. Oh, anyway, I think that probably brings us to the end of that one there. As you can tell, didn't really enjoy that one this week.
But, we're here to watch the films and let you know whether they're worth a watch.
Exactly. They're all worth talking about, whether they inspire or they infuriate. Catch us on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, all the social medias. You'll find us on there. You find the entire back catalogue of the show on fightingonfilm.com. Please do have a FOF binge, catch up from the first episode all the way through till now. I'm sure you'll find some movies you might not have heard of. You might even be able to listen to our opinions on some of your favourite movies. Who knows?
And I can assure everyone that they're all probably better films than this one.
Probably.
Even Death Trench, actually.
I think even Death Trench had more going than this did.
There we go, guys.
There we go. Yeah. Thanks for listening. Leave us a review on Apple Pods if you'd be so kind. And we'll catch you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.